welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center. As you can see by the title, man, yes, I'm back with another JJ Reddick video. Now, I don't know if JJ Reddick is trolling in some of these videos. I don't know if what JJ Reddick is saying is being took out of context in some of these videos. And I don't know if JJ Reddick really believes the stuff that's coming out his mouth in some of these videos. So, you know, I did a video on him disrespecting Larry Bird. Now we got a whole other video with him disrespecting Michael Jordan. And I don't know. I can't jump the gun just yet. I don't know what he said, but that's what this video right here is for. So before we get into this video, man, do me a big favor. Smash that thumbs up button. Do me and Bob a big favor. Smash that thumbs up button. And let's just see what ignorance is JJ Reddick talking about in today's video. Just 1 second. If you guys have been enjoying my videos, if you guys have been loving my content I've been putting out and you wanted to support, this is how you would do it. So you would scroll over to where you see the $ thanks. When you click on the $ thanks, it's going to give you like 4 different options. It's going to give you some preset options, but you can also go to more and give whatever you're willing to give. There's no certain amount. Anything is appreciated. I just really appreciate you guys for supporting me. Thanks. Now back to the video. I just got to see, man.
I just say it. I'm just gonna say Jordan. A hard-hitting basketball question. Please. Who's the greatest of all time? I just say it. I'm just gonna say Jordan. Go
LeBron James, is he an all-time great scorer? No, he is the all-time greatest scorer. Is LeBron James clutch? Well, you could make the argument he's the most clutch player ever.
Like, I'll say this with Michael Jordan, and I don't mean this to be controversial. 6 teams were added to the NBA. There were 90 players added to the NBA.
There was more physicality for sure. A lot of that was just harder fouls. Go watch the 1993 NBA Finals against the Phoenix Suns and tell me that was a physical series.
When it comes to the current day NBA media, it's becoming increasingly difficult to find people who are influenced by money, the promise of future access. And when it comes to JJ Reddick, I've had this guy pegged from day one as a clutch sports client. Anytime he opens his mouth, what's he doing? Defending modern-day players like Kevin Durant, LeBron James, despite losing and their lack of leadership.
My thing is this. We can't take away from the fact that LeBron is a great player. You know what I mean? LeBron is an all-time great. But what I'm noticing, for me, it seems like what I'm noticing is a lot of today's analysts, I would say analysts or even players, they don't give the legends of the past the credit that they deserve. It's almost like, okay, if we uplift these guys, it's discrediting these guys. You know what I mean? So we got to come out and we got to defend and we got to rock with our generation, you know, to let, you know, just to keep us ahead. And it's not necessarily about that. I mean, you can't take away from the fact that the guys back then was built differently, physically and mentally. The guys back today's era are more athletic. I will give you that. They jump higher than, you know, a lot of the guys from back then. But to say that they're more skilled athleticism is a completely different thing. And I think that a lot of people kind of overlook that context. You know what I mean?
And look at the past eras. Guys like Jordan, Bird, Cousy, guys really every era pre-2000 and trashed them all day long.
Like, I'll say this with Michael Jordan, and I don't mean this to be controversial, but like everybody talks about all these, the context of this era. Michael Jordan, the Dallas Mavericks were added as the 23rd team in 1981. Jordan was drafted. During his heyday, 6 teams were added to the NBA. There were 90 players added to the NBA.
Now, stopping right there looking at these comments, before we dive in.
I'm trying to figure out what does they got to do with anything. You talking about there were 6 teams added. There were 90 players added. I'm trying to figure out what does they have to do with anything. Like,
okay. When this podcast was debuted was April 30th. Now, why is that important? Because on April 29th, LeBron James, his Lakers, were eliminated from the playoffs. So not even 24 hours have passed, and Reddick already trashing Jordan's entire era.
Coincidence? I think not.
So when talking about expansion, yes, 1980 the Dallas Mavericks were added as the 23rd team. Now, from 1981 to 89...
You know what it feels like to me? And even thinking about like what they just saying. So in less than 24 hours, JJ Reddick already going on there and trashing Michael Jordan. It's almost like the situation where when you was a kid and it was a guy or the bigger kid who, or the bigger kid who would do something to you or say something, and you wouldn't say nothing to him, but when somebody else would say the same thing, now you try to press that person for saying something, and the other person looking like, what you getting mad at me for? He the one who said it, but you coming and want to, press me. So that's like that with JJ Reddick. Why are you mad at Mike? Mike ain't got nothing to do with LeBron being eliminated in the first round 4-1. That's all Nikola Jokic. That's all Jamal Murray. That's all Aaron Gordon. So why isn't your energy put forth towards the people who actually put him out? You're talking about a person from the 90s who dominated his era easily, hands down. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man, make this stuff make sense.
Yes, expanded.
I'm on JJ Reddick. You know what? Because I'm tired of the disrespect. I'm tired of the slander. I'm on JJ Reddick. You know what?
Teams. But ask yourself, why did they expand? Looking at David Stern's words himself, why the league expanded? His overall revenue salary generated increased tenfold. As back in the early 80s, the average salary was $180,000. By 89, it was nearly $1 million. And one thing Stern also notes is a talent boom in the early and mid-1980s. And if you look at those draft classes from really 81 to 85, I mean, it is stacked, loaded every single season. 1981, you had 9 future All-Stars led by Isaiah Thomas. 82, 7 future All-Stars led by Worthy and Wilkins. 83, 5 All-Stars led by Drexler Sampson. 84, debatably, the greatest draft class of all time led by Jordan. Then 85, a whopping 10 future All-Stars and 4 Hall of Famers. So yes, the NBA did expand, but they expanded with a purpose and not just willy-nilly just to do it for the sake of expanding. And one thing I want to show you guys, looking at every NBA draft from 81 to 90 during the first expansion period, there were 6 draft classes that produced 7 or more All-Stars. Now, looking at LeBron...
Now, like I said, ultimately, we can pull these statistics up, but ultimately, we already know the biggest thing, and I believe, is that why the newer age players or analysts or whatever the case may be, shits on the old schools is the fact that, like I say, their thing is, the players today are more skilled. Now, it took a subscriber to break it down to me. Like I said earlier in this video as well, skill and athleticism are 2 completely different things. Like I said, once again, athleticism, yeah, skill, not necessarily. You know what I mean? But then even if you try to break things down like this in terms of, okay, look at how many All-Stars was drafted this year compared to this year. They're going to still probably say stuff, well, look at the competition they had to play back then. Well, if this person was playing back then, he probably would have had this many All-Stars. You know what I mean? Like...
era. 04 to 2013, a decade time period just like 81 to 90. Those draft classes only had 1 with 7 or more All-Stars in them. And if you go year by year, I mean, some of the worst draft classes of all time, major busts, major whiffs, and the overall talent influx not nearly as big as the early 1980s. And if you guys don't believe me, think I'm BSing, I'm not telling the truth, look at LeBron James 2010 after joining the Heat. Here's LeBron's comments on the record to Brian Windhorst. LeBron says quite clearly his era compared to the 80s was watered down. And looking back at that era, it was quote-unquote great because in the 80s, you had 3 or 4 All-Stars, 3 or 4 superstars on every single team. The league was great, it wasn't as watered down as it is now. And LeBron in his article, the entire point of the article, isn't talking expansion of the NBA, but contraction. So think about that. In Jordan's era, the NBA was expanding due to a talent boom. But LeBron James in his era, it wasn't talking expansion, but contraction because of lack of talent. And when talking about multiple All-Stars, tons of Hall of Famers in one roster, it kind of got me thinking. In LeBron's Eastern Conference, 2010 to 2018, how watered down was it in comparison to Jordan's era from 85-93 during the first three-peat? Now, the results were kind of shocking. Looking at Jordan's era, teams with multiple All-Stars, there were 26 teams that fit that criteria. Now, looking at LeBron's East, only 18 teams met that criteria. And again, according to LeBron James, what makes teams great, what makes the league great, are squads with multiple All-Stars and multiple Hall of Famers.
6 teams were added to the NBA. There were 9
I'm tired of seeing this clip.
players added to the NBA. Like that does that not water down?
Now, stopping that short clip right
How
there.
does it water down?
What
Make
really
it
makes it
like.
seem like is that the NBA all of a sudden just expanded in an instant.
I mean,
it was
bro,
1 year, 90 players are
I
out.
almost want to punch a hole in his teeth, like punch the teeth, because I'm trying to make sense of what JJ Reddick is saying. JJ Reddick is saying. You keep saying this many teams was implemented. You keep saying that this many players was implemented. You keep saying that and saying was it? My thing is this. Let's just forget all that you just said about the teams. Look at Jordan's accomplishments over his career and say that this guy isn't a GOAT. This guy isn't one of the best players. I mean, one of the best players to play the game. There's not a lot of people that you can put up against, because we're the era, regardless of the era, against Michael Jordan and his statistics of his accomplishments on top of the overall team success. It is unmatched. It is unmatched. I mean,
And it was done with. Well, that's not entirely true. The NBA in the late 80s, 88 added 2 teams, and the Hornets and Heat, and in 89, the Wolves and Magic. So it wasn't an all-at-once 90 players in just at the drop of a hat. And looking at those 4 teams, Charlotte, Miami, Minnesota, and Orlando, only one of those teams didn't have success in the 1990s, that being Minnesota. I mean, even the Hornets by 93 were a great team with tons of talent. They had Larry Johnson, Alonzo Mourning, Kendall Gill, Del Curry, even Muggsy Bogues. And from 95-98, 50 wins, 54, and 51. Even looking at the Heat, by 92, had already made the playoffs, and by the late 90s were a championship contender. As 97, they won 61 games, 98, 55,
and it's like the
99,
Magic. The Magic went to the playoffs. They put out Mike when Mike came back.
Down those teams, Tim Hardaway, Alonzo Mourning, Jamal Mashburn, P.J. Brown, and Old Thunder Band. Those Heat teams of the late 90s, they were absolutely loaded and stacked. And looking at the best expansion team, you have Shaq's Magic, of course, with Penny Hardaway. This team of the mid-90s was a championship caliber team, as on their roster, of course, Shaq, Penny, Horace Grant, Dennis Scott, and Nick Anderson. Think about that. A quote-unquote expansion team beat Michael Jordan in the middle of his prime. What I'm trying to show you guys, the moniker expansion team is highly misleading and provides no context to actual talent in the NBA at that time. And again, the funny irony is, Michael Jordan's era in a quote-unquote expansion era. Look at the 2010s and LeBron's era. This era was the era of tanking and trust in the process.
Oh no! We suck again!
And look at the actual facts of the matter. And the worst records in NBA history, the majority of them were in LeBron's East. The worst team of all time in NBA history,
I remember
the
that.
Bobcats, they won 7 games. 2016, Philadelphia, they won 10 games. 2010, the Nets, they won 12. 05, the Hawks, they won.
Let's take a minute to look at that. Bro, this team only won 7 games. This team only won 10 games. This team only won 12 games. This team only won 13 games. If you swap that 70 around to 12, that's damn near like the 72 and 10 Bulls.
13. 5 of the 10 worst teams in NBA history played LeBron's East. Now, looking further down the list, the 89 Heat, 15 wins. 97 Celtics, also 15. 08 Heat, 2014 Bucks, again 15. The 90s Nets, 17 wins. 2015 Knicks, also 17 wins. Out of the top 50 worst teams in NBA history by record, only 3 of them played in Jordan's East. A whopping 7
I like this dude.
were in LeBron's East.
I like this
And
dude.
again, doing a head-to-head comparison, Jordan versus LeBron, the exact same time period, looking at their Eastern conferences. When it came to 20-win teams in Jordan's East, only 18. LeBron's East, a whopping 25. Now teams under 20 wins, Jordan 4, LeBron 8.
Like that does that not water down? I'm not talking playoffs, by the way. No chance of talking playoffs. Does that not water down the regular season to a degree? You lived it, right? You played against some of those teams. You played against the Bobcats.
Now, stopping it right there, I'm going to get very, very nitpicky. When Reddick says the Bobcats, they weren't a team till 2004 as an expansion team in LeBron's era. And I do find it quite odd, Reddick, at the very end, he says he's not talking playoff teams, just teams during the regular season. Well, even if that's the case, looking at LeBron's East, LeBron's comp, versus Jordan's East, his comp, the teams at the bottom of Jordan's East weren't nearly as bad, nearly as often as LeBron's East. If you're purely talking playoffs, the whole expansion argument is really pointless.
What makes him great, well, a bunch of things, but what has made him great is the fact that he's done it now for 21 years at the highest level. Like, you talk about scoring, that's great. So one guy averaged 35 a year. Yeah, LeBron's never averaged 35 in a year. Guess what? He's averaged 25 or more for 20 straight years. No one's had more than 15 of those years. Like, that to me is,
But once again, like I always say, he came straight out of high school. Mike played 3 years in college and was coming back for a fourth year before his coach told him to go pro. So if you play 20 plus years, you would think common sense would say that you would be ranked, that you would be ahead in a lot of the brackets or anything statistically. And if you're not playing 20 years, you bullshitting. Like, come on, dude. It's like you're not fully putting context behind what you're saying. I understand what you're saying about LeBron being at the top of, a lot of these categories. But the dude came straight out of high school and then played 20 plus years. Jordan, 3 years on top of sitting out a year, retiring and going to go try baseball and come, Like, come on, man.
score. But again, it looks differently. He plays differently.
Now, that right there was our last clip, and the overall video was kind of off subject. But I wanted to put this in there for a couple reasons. When it comes to guys like Reddick, Shannon Sharp, Nick Wright, even Richard Miller on TNT, all day long, longevity, age 39, year 21. It's almost like all these guys have a sheet they're reading off of and talking points to hit on every show, every game, and every podcast. And in regards to longevity, like I said numerous times, yes, an aspect of greatness. But here's the thing. Someone like John Stockton, for 10 straight years, a decade, averaged 10 or more assists. Attic Johnson never did that. Dominique Wilkins, for 10 straight years, averaged above 25 points per game. Larry Bird in his career only did it 4 consecutive seasons. My point being, the obsession with quantity over quality is downright bizarre. And if you're talking LeBron versus Jordan, I'll take MJ for a decade's time period, averaging 35, 36, even 37 points, over LeBron James, who for 20 years was at around 25, 27 points per game on an average year. And last point I will make in regards to Reddick, for someone who, quote, doesn't care about the GOAT debate, doesn't care about Jordan versus LeBron, he spends an awful lot of time debating these two players and trashing Jordan's era, which apparently he doesn't care about. That's kind of odd. And again, the convenience LeBron James one day loses, the next day Jordan's era, it stinks to an expansion era, and it was straight garbage. The timing of these comments, it can't be a coincidence. So that right there is the end of the video. As always, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.
I'm getting sick of JJ Reddick at this point because some of these statements and some of these things that he's saying is very bizarre to me. But that is it with this video, man. Comment down below what you guys think. I mean, attack them comments. I want to hear you guys' take on this, on whether you take his side or whether you disagree with him. I want to know that. But that is it for this video, man. If you did enjoy this video, do me and Bob a big favor, man. Smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, man, make sure you subscribe. If you've been watching my videos for this long and you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. And when you subscribe, make sure you click that notification bell. That way you'll be notified every time I upload, man. Because just like the GOAT Drizzy, I messed that up. Just like the GOAT Drizzy Drake say, I'm coming back to back with these videos, man. So you don't want to miss it. I'll see y'all in the next video. I'm out this thing.